welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express papers Chandigarh edition. From today's newspaper, the topic of electoral bonds is important. Then we have the issue of road accidents. There is a fact which says that road accidents have increased by 12%. Right? So we can analyze this as to the reasons plus the measures that the government has taken to deal with the issue of road accidents. By the way, I have already shared links on Telegram, which discusses these two topics. Then there is a UN report which talks about groundwater depletion and how severe this problem is. We can combine this with the Meher Shah committee report, right? So on water governance, so that will help. Again, Meher Shah report I have shared on the Telegram. So it's these three topics that I feel are fairly important. Now coming to the front page. Recently, there is a controversy that has erupted, which about a mistrust between the opposition and the government. Some of the opposition leaders are using the Apple iPhone, and they have gotten a notification from the Apple company that there is a possible state-sponsored attack or a state-sponsored initiative to spy on the opposition leaders. Fine. So as to the government can track, so the people in power can track the opposition. So these are all allegations. Okay. Now Apple has come up with a clarification that they have developed the system. These are automated messages. There may not be a case at all. Plus, we are only saying state-sponsored state-sponsored attack, spying attack. Now, the state-sponsored could be anything. It could be India, it could be Pakistan, it could be US. Right. So we do not know which state is doing it. So Apple has given its clarification also. Now, the government is saying that they will probe this issue, and they are not satisfied with Apple's remarks. They want Apple to join the investigation. So this is the recent controversy. I'm fairly sure you must have seen it on your Google feed or maybe social media also. Next is an article which tells us about this problem, Bombay air pollution. So we heard this previously also. Now Bombay High Court takes suo moto notice of rising pollution. Suo moto means it on its own takes notice, and it has asked the respective government agencies, local body, state government and center to explain as to why is this pollution taking place and what steps they are taking. Now this is an example of judicial activism. See, the same topic can be of environment, pollution and polity as well. This is an example of judicial activism. We see the court on its own doing something. Okay. Now, when we talk about judicial activism, very often judicial activism can lead to judicial overreach. Now, this is a very, very important topic. Now, moving on to the next topic, this is about the electoral bonds. Okay. So, it is being heard, the issue about the anonymity of electoral bonds is being heard at the Supreme Court. On the front page over here, we get the views of the government. On the page number 12, we get the views of the petitioners. Okay. Now, when we look at the electoral bonds, let me first explain what is this, and then we will come to other issues. By the way, overall analysis that's actually mentioned in this video also. So consider these over here as people who want to fund political party, and these are our politicians. So one of the ways of funding the political parties now is electoral bonds. So in this, what happens is the people who want to fund, they can buy these bonds from this particular or designated branches of the State Bank of India. So they make payments. The SBI gives them these electoral bonds, which can in turn be given to the respective political parties. So these are electoral bonds. Now, the issue with the electoral bonds is that it does not provide for the donor. It allows for cash. The idea of bringing in electoral bonds was to remove cash-based funding to political parties, because cash-based funding was anonymous. So they came up with electoral bonding. They said that cashless payment would be there. It will help in dealing with this black money issue also. But the issue of anonymity still remains. That is, who has provided how much money to a political party, we do not know. Now, the government, the Solicitor General is saying that, see, we are protecting the citizens' privacy, because it is it's a private affairs as to who is funding how much, right? What are the political leanings? It's a private affairs. Yes, that is absolutely correct. But at the same time, I'm actually sharing a view of the Association of Democratic Reforms, which talks about political reforms in the country. So they say that, see, 95% of the political funding is coming from the corporates. They are, what about 2%, 5% of the population? But they are providing the funding. The funding provides for the narrative of elections, etc. They influence the voter behavior. Plus, the funding to any political party. Let's say any company has given funding to a political party. So naturally, there may be an issue of a possible conflict of interest, that, see, this particular political party comes to power and then it returns the favor. So there is a possibility of a kickback. So the citizens must know a possible conflict of interest when they are going for their voting. So that transparency, that accountability should be there. So on one hand, there is the issue of privacy of the person who was funding. At the same time, from the citizen's perspective, we should know as to what is the possibility of a conflict of interest. That is very much important. Association of Democratic Reforms take a much harsher note. It says that if we do not deal with this issue, there is a possibility that the democracy in India would turn into plutocracy. Plutocracy is a term for crony capitalism. That is, few capitalists are running the government, who are funding the political party. They are the ones who are running the government, deciding as to what policies should the government frame, all those things. Okay, moving on. So more of this. Wait a second. Yes, now we continue with this election thing. Now let us see what are the opposition people saying. One, you have the ADR, this thing of possible conflict of interest. And besides, we are having this Kapil Sibal, prominent lawyer, arguing in favor of the petitioners who are challenging electoral bonds. So very interesting points. He makes a case of Prevention of Corruption Act. He says that if somebody gets, obviously, a bribe or a gratification, then that person can be charged for corruption. But in the electoral bonds, you can give as much money as you want to a political party, and there will be no questions asked as to how that money is used, what is done, no questions asked. So this incentivizes corruption. That is what he is saying. Okay, next. When electoral bonds were introduced, there were changes made to the Companies Act as well. So now the political parties do not have to disclose, the corporates do not have to disclose how much funding they have given to which political party. Let's say Congress is there, BJP is there, Aam Aadmi Party is there. So they don't have to give this breakup. They can just say that so much money they have given combined for political funding. Then, last point. Previously, when this cash donations were made, even now it is made actually. So cash donations upwards of 20,000. If political party got cash upwards of 20,000 rupees, then it had to be disclosed as to the source of that funding. Right, so that was the thing. So above 20,000, it has to be disclosed. That was the old rule. Now this has actually been reduced to rupees 2,000 or 2,500. So if a political party gets about 20,000, they have to disclose. So they changed this rule and they brought in electoral bonds. Now in electoral bonds, there is no need to disclose. So this has also gone, right? So declaration of above 20,000 was the source, plus electoral bonds, of course, completely that thing is gone. Now they're saying so citizens they have to disclose, but for corporates it is not there because they're the ones you're using electoral bonds. So rich get preeminence, importance over the citizens, right? So these are the arguments made by the opposition or petitioners, right? All those people. Coming to the explained section now. Okay, let's start with this Maratha quota. So there is a court case going on wherein Marathas want reservation. Right? Marathas want reservation on the grounds that they are socially and educationally backwards. Marathas constitute about 33% of the state's population. Okay. Now, Supreme Court is saying that, see, we cannot give a reservation on this quota. We cannot provide Marathas quota. One ground they are saying is that they may be economically backward. Some of them would be economically backwards, but they are the dominant community and therefore they are not socially backwards. So for reservation to take place, one has to be socially and educationally or economically backwards. But they are not socially backwards. That is what the Supreme Court had held previously. That is point number one. And if they say that if you want to prove it is socially backwards, then come up with some data or facts. Second, in the Mandal case or the Indrasani case previously, the Supreme Court had put a ceiling on reservation. They said that the reservation cannot exceed 50% of the seats. So providing reservation to the Maratha, because 50% is already used, SC, ST, OBC, everything is used. Adding a specific category for Maratha it was 16% actually proposed. So this breaches the 50% limit. Adding 16% would be 66%. So on these two grounds, the reservation was denied. Again, this has now come back to the courts. Next, what a normal monsoon hides. So basically, this article is telling us about, that we had normal monsoon. Even though it was an El Nino year, we got 94% of the overall rainfall. So it is a normal monsoon. But we all know, common sense, we have observed this, that regionally speaking, and even if we look at the time-wise distribution, so regional and temporal variations were there. So yes, it is normal monsoon, but yes, there were regional and temporal variations. For example, regional variations, the northern part got so much of rains, and that too at the early part of the monsoon season. So there were like massive floods that took place on the northern part, while the central and the southern part were dry because of the El Nino effect. So there was a regional variation. Likewise, northeastern region got barely 80% rain. Right, so they had gotten a lesser amount of rain. The southern part of the country also had large deficits. So these are regional variation. Even within the region also, district-wise speaking, the rainfall was highly erratic. Plus, there was too much rain, there was too little rain. That was also there. Right. So 94% will be meaningful if it is throughout the time period. Right. So with too much rain, it affecting the crops, and then we have a dry spell. So that is not good. So temporal is time-wise. So August, we saw very low rainfall. It was the driest August ever, even though we are saying it was a normal rainfall. At the start, there was too much rains. right? And then we had a dry spell. So, yes. Okay, so normal monsoon, the term normal monsoon is hiding away the problems that are there. And the government needs to be proactive in dealing with this. So, the problem is coming from the climate change in particular, and we need to be better prepared to face to brace for this unpredictability. We need to work on disaster preparedness. We have to deal with bottlenecks that worsen the impacts of extreme weather events. We need to be more climate resilient. So the way forward is given. Okay, next article. Road accidents up by 12% to 4.6 lakhs. Previously, I remember reading this, it was 4.5 lakhs. So it makes sense. It is now 4.6 lakhs. It's exact 12%. Okay. So from last year, 19 deaths every year, unfortunately. Okay. So this is the report. Now, I've already shared with you this articles on road accidents on the Telegram, right? So, okay. So basically, you need, oh, just a second. Yeah. Uh, you refer to the Telegram, you will get all the facts as well as the recommendations to deal with road accidents, what government is doing, engineering issues, right? Identifying of the black spots, the dark black spots. So those issues are there. Road safety regulations changes in the Motor Vehicle Act. So all of these are covered. Okay, now we come to the editorial and opinion page. So very briefly, my focus is on this article, every drop counts, right? So, but briefly, I'm covering this one. Look beyond quota. This is about Maratha quota. So issues framed by Maratha agitation. Marathas are agitating because they want this OBC reservation. So they require expanding opportunities and economic pie, not increasing reservation. I think this is self-explanatory, right? So we have to just not rely on reservation. If there is an agitation, we give reservation. No, we have to identify the root causes and opportunities for these people. We have to create non-farm jobs for everybody actually. In Haryana, it is Jat agitation, and Jat again are considered as a socially dominant group, but they're asking for reservation. Okay, next article, Gujarat Patel's. Okay, every drop counts. So we're talking about a UN report on groundwater extraction. So there is a UN, United Nations University report, which was published last week, and it says that 27 out of 31 aquifers are depleting. Fine, so that's a thing. 27 out of 31 are depleting. And more facts, 70% of the water used in the country is coming from the ground water. Agriculture also, it's reliant on the tube wells. The Green Revolution is basically sponsored by the tube wells. Okay. So there is a problem. The groundwater table is depleting. We see more of this interstate river water disputes. So all those things are there. Now, these problems are going to get worse with climate crisis, the unpredictability, the heat stress, the more demand of water is going to take place. At the same time, talking merely for this thing, groundwater. You see, groundwater recharge takes place with the rains or river water flowing. So time for the water to percolate into the soil. That's how the groundwater comes. With climate crisis, with heating, etc., there is limited time for the water to percolate because of the excess heat. So this is going to accentuate the problem. So now what needs to be done? We have a very interesting Mihir Shah committee report which talks about bringing in reforms to water governance in the country. And there, one of the things he said was that we need institutional innovation. It's talking about supply side. We need institutional innovation. So there is this, uh, this central water bodies for river, and then water bodies for ground, government bodies for groundwater. So these government agencies which manage the water resources are mainly comprising of civil engineers, public works department, civil engineers, etc. When we look at the issue of water, we should also look at, let's say, people from water has an economy dimension associated with economy, agriculture, etc. So we should have people who have domain expertise in other fields as well, who have expertise in, let's say, geology also, as to how the rocks, rocks, etc., and the relationship with the water. So we need institutional innovation in that regard. So this is the this thing. So Central Groundwater Board. So these bodies are there. So he suggested that we need to have a standard national water commission that deals with this entire issue in entirety, and it should have experts from multiple domains. Talking about demand side, right? We are all, when we talk about water, we always talk about the supply side of water, that construction of dams, etc. But we need to also deal with the demand side. So one is, of course, the institutional innovation thing. Second is the government came up with Atal Bhujal Yojana. Bhujal means groundwater. And the idea was to make behavioral changes so that less water is used. Then we should look at climate smart agriculture. Agriculture takes up 4/5 of the water, that is 80% of the water. And we all know this ill effects of the uh, uh, green revolution, especially in the northern parts where paddy is being cultivated in arid areas. We should use hardy crops or less water intensive crops like millets, etc. That will be more suitable. Then, of course, micro irrigation, etc. Those things are also there. Next is on AI governance, safe use of AI. Safe use of AI per se is not mentioned. It basically says that, see, there was a London summit which talked about safe use of AI. And of course, AI, there can be a lot of misuses. For example, this generative AI is there, where fake voice, fake images can be used. A lot of misuse can be there. Plus, issue of copyright, etc., are there. Possibility of replacement of man, so employability. So there are certain concerns. So the UK London summit had taken place. Now it tells us about some other examples also. So it says even China is looking at this issue. So China is saying that we should have a broad set of principles for international cooperation and global governance on AI. And there should be emphasis given to the concerns of developing countries. UN also says that we need to have an international institution to govern the AI. Now, in that sense, India should also brace up to this. And we're talking about the governance of the AI at the global level. India should come up with its own narrative and look to have a voice in this AI governance. Okay. International news. Right, same unfortunate events regarding Gaza issue. Now, uh, protest at US Congress hearing as Austin Blinken seek Israel aid. Right, so in US also maybe there is a sentiment about dealing with this issue plus dealing it with humanitarian perspective. So thereby this protest. Afghans, I think not really important. Basically, this is Pakistan, there is Afghanistan. Just imagine the map of Asia. Pakistan says that there are a lot of Afghans who are living in Pakistan. They should be deported back to Afghanistan. the reason for this urgency, actually, with all these statements coming from Pakistan that they should be deported, is because they say that there are a lot of militia groups from Afghanistan who are allied to Taliban, and they are doing these attacks, and they go back, they come to Pakistan and then go back. So we don't want this. So thereby we want to deport these people. Moving on to the economy section. India's Russian oil imports slip. So when the Ukraine war took place, Russia provided deep discounts on oil. Now Russia, things have gotten finer, better for Russia. So Russia is now not giving those deep discounts. Russia is a far off country. So India is moving back to its traditional partners like Saudi Arabia. So Saudi supply rebounds from September low. So I think that's good enough. Okay. RBI governor is saying that second quarter GDP number will surprise on upside. So he's expecting, he's bullish on the economy. However, key infrastructure sector growth, etc., data is not good. It is to a 4-month low. Next, fiscal deficit widens. Then this is important. Gold demand drops in quarter 3, but India is on a bright spot. So this is global gold demand. Okay. This data is coming from the World Gold Council. You should know more about this World Gold Council because UPSC does ask such questions in prelims. So it's a market development organization, nothing to do with UN, etc. Okay. It is based out of London. That's good enough. And then they see how market should be developed, how gold demand should be there, all those things. Now, if the global demand for gold is less, it benefits India. India, we will use gold no matter what. So if the global demand is low, that means when we import a lot of gold, it will be cheaper. And when we import gold, we spend dollars, right? We spend rupees, we buy dollars, so dollars become more expensive. So with the gold prices coming down, it should help with our current account deficit. So our forex reserves should be better protected. Okay, so that's it from today's news analysis. Thank you.